Keeping it simple, the changes to security screenings at the border that may cut down on wait times. It's just a drill. Hundreds of military members training today for a violent security breach. The two key factors that may help in an emergency. This is KPBS Evening Edition. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. California coastal commissioners got an earful today from dozens of speakers who showed up to support Executive Director Charles Lester, who is facing possible dismissal. Like many of those who spoke, Graham Hamilton of Surfrider questioned why the commissioners have given no good reason for their proposal to fire Lester. He suggested it in response to pressure from private developers.
This commission today is poised to meet the challenges that the California coastline faces, and there are many. You have letters from over 100 NGOs, 35 former commissioners, 16 state legislators, 10 members of the House of Reps, and some 14,000 letters of the public, all expressing their faith and support of Dr. Lester.
And the 12 coastal commissioners are expected to go into closed session later this evening to vote. San Diego Supervisor's Greg Cox is a commissioner but was unable to attend the meeting. Escondido City Councilwoman Olga Diaz is attending in his stead. U.S. Customs and Border Protection announced today that it will expand hours of operation for Sentry lanes at the Otay Mesa border crossing. KPBS Fronteras reporter Jean Guerrero explains what that means for drivers.
Sentry is a trusted traveler program offering expedited screening at the ports of entry. Starting next Tuesday, Otay Mesa's Sentry lanes will be open from 4 a.m. until midnight, 7 days a week for both pedestrians and vehicles. Currently, the hours are fewer, and they vary depending on the day of week and mode of travel. Assistant Port Director Joseph Meisenhelter says officials wanted to simplify the service.
It's 4 in the morning till midnight every day of the week. Doesn't matter if you're driving or walking. So I think that helps people. It causes less confusion.
He says the decision to expand hours was also made in response to increased use of Sentry lanes in Otay Mesa. About 22% of all vehicle traffic at the border crossing goes through Sentry. At the San Ysidro port of entry, Sentry lanes are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Meisenhelter says hours at Otay Mesa's Sentry lanes may expand even more if there's enough traffic. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
Calexico's main border crossing is getting an upgrade. The Imperial County Board of Supervisors says the federal government approved nearly $250 million this week for new traffic lanes and other facilities. Last year, Congress also approved nearly $100 million to improve Calexico's west port of entry by 2018. Officials say the money will add 6 more lanes that will help reduce wait times for travelers. For the 15th time, the man who assassinated Robert F. Kennedy was denied parole. The decision came today after Sirhan Bishara Sirhan answered questions from a parole panel. He is imprisoned at the Donovan Correctional Facility in Otay Mesa. He was convicted of first-degree murder and assault for the assassination of the Democratic senator in June of 1968. Sirhan has claimed amnesia. He was last denied parole in 2011. Demanding police reform in Ferguson, the federal government filed a lawsuit against the city over complaints of routinely violating residents' rights and misusing law enforcement to generate revenue. Ferguson has been under Justice Department scrutiny since 18-year-old Michael Brown was fatally shot by a white officer a year and a half ago. His death sparked protests in San Diego and around the nation. The suit comes one day after the City Council voted to revise an agreement previously negotiated with the DOJ aimed at improving the way police and courts treat poor people and minorities in the St. Louis suburb. A recent financial analysis by the city found that the agreement would have cost $4 million in the first year alone.
We do not believe that there is a price to be placed on our Constitution. We think all citizens are entitled to what everyone enjoys by birth in this country, the right to be free from excessive force, the right to be free from discriminatory policing.
And the Justice Department has initiated more than 20 civil rights investigations into law enforcement agencies in the last 6 years, including in Baltimore and Chicago. Former Los Angeles Sheriff Lee Baca has pleaded guilty to lying during a federal investigation of corruption at the jails he ran. Baca retired during that investigation. It led to charges and convictions against deputies for beating inmates, obstructing justice, bribery, and conspiracy. He will be sentenced in May. Presidential hopefuls are now heading south. The next primary is in South Carolina. The big surprise last night in New Hampshire was Ohio Governor John Kasich. He snagged the second top spot on the Republican side. Associated Press reporter Tracy Brown shows us who leads the polls today.
New Hampshire's primary awarded big wins to the unorthodox candidacies of Democrat Bernie Sanders and Republican Donald Trump.
You know, we learned a lot about ground games in 1 week, I have to tell you that.
While the Granite State is known for its political surprises, in this case, Trump and Sanders led the polls in the state for months. Tuesday night, Trump promising that America will start winning again.
I am going to be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. Remember that.
The results did little to clarify the crowded Republican contest. Ohio Governor John Kasich claiming the critical second-place prize.
There's magic in the air with this campaign because we don't see it as just another campaign. We see this as an opportunity for all of us, and I mean all of us, to be involved in something that's bigger than our own lives.
On the Democratic side, Sanders was buoyed by those seeking a candidate who they felt cared about people like them.
Because of a huge voter turnout, and I say huge, we won because we harnessed the energy and the excitement that the Democratic Party will need to succeed in November.
Despite the loss, Hillary Clinton arguing she will do better as the race heads to more racially diverse states.
I still love New Hampshire, and I always will. Now we take this campaign to the entire country. We're going to fight for every vote in every state.
Now the candidates have to trade in those snow boots to head to states south and west.
The next Democratic contest is a caucus in Nevada. The Clinton campaign has been hoping that this will be a very favorable state for them. For the Republicans in South Carolina, so far most surveys that have been done there show Donald Trump leading and doing very well.
The next stage of the presidential race likely to have a smaller cast of characters. Tracy Brown, Associated Press.
Carly Fiorina and Christie are out of the race. Fiorina tweeted that she is suspending her campaign. She gained positive reviews for her debate performances, but struggled to build support in the primaries. She had previous unsuccessful run for California Senate. And New Jersey Governor Christie campaigned the longest in New Hampshire, but still came in 6th place. And the race for the Democratic nomination is wide open. Tomorrow, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders will meet for their 6th debate in Milwaukee. Gwen Ifill and Judy Woodruff will moderate the PBS NewsHour primary debate. That's tomorrow night at 6 o'clock right here on KPBS. A busy boulevard separates a pair of San Diego neighborhoods. Both are worlds apart when it comes to income, race, age, and voter turnout. As part of our California Counts election coverage, we take a closer look at both communities. KPBS reporters Claire Tregesser and Megan Burks introduce us to the voters.
Peter Dennehy has lived in Kensington for almost 9 years.
I like the fact that, it's a very established neighborhood. My mom lives around the corner. She's lived here for 15 years.
The 50-year-old is pretty sure he's never missed an election.
Honestly, I was raised that way. So I went to vote with my parents, and so I kind of that behavior was modeled.
Most of Dennehy's neighbors likely vote too. In the 2014 general election, Kensington saw 62% voter turnout, and one of its precincts had the 3rd highest turnout in all of San Diego.
It's kind of a tradition that I think people here seem to embrace. It's also a neighborhood that welcomes participation in every level. You see people walking their dogs walking to the businesses.
I'm standing in Kensington's bustling commercial area. People are walking to the Starbucks, an organic grocery store, and lots of local shops and restaurants. But drive less than a mile to the neighborhood's southern border,
and you're in an entirely different neighborhood. I'm reporter Megan Burks, and I'm standing here in the Teralta district of San Diego's diverse mid-city area. It's a lot more frenetic than in Kensington to the north. People from all over the world live here, do business here, and catch buses here.
My name is Mahmoud Osman. My family's from Somalia, so basically Africa, the motherland. It's only me and my younger brother who's born in the United States.
Osman is 18 and says he'll be voting for the first time in June, but he represents a lot of why turnout here hovers below 30%. Like Osman's mom and siblings, nearly half of the residents here were born outside the United States. That's compared to 12% in Kensington. Many can't vote because they're living in the country illegally or can't afford the costs associated with becoming a citizen. Others, like Osman's mom, are just too busy trying to build a new life.
We don't pay attention to a lot of things because we wanna know what can we do to have more income.
Osman says he wants to cast his ballot on quality of life issues, including raising the minimum wage. The median household income among his neighbors is about $22,000 a year, compared to more than $90,000 in Kensington.
Voting is a way for us people to have a voice as well, rather than just voting for presidency or laws, legalize this, legalize that.
But can Osman and his neighbors truly have a voice when Kensington voters come out in force to decide elections?
It makes me want to definitely vote less in a sense, but I can't. I want to set an example for people.
We all want better schools, safe neighborhoods, streets without potholes, all those same kind of concerns.
Back in Kensington, longtime resident Jody Cleesaddle adds that the widespread in demographics doesn't necessarily mean there's a deep political divide between the neighborhoods.
The poorer you are, certainly, the more pressing issues you may have on your mind, to where voting or learning about particular candidates is less of a priority.
As the June election approaches, we'll follow voters in both neighborhoods to learn whether that's true. And we'll look at state and national campaigns through their lenses. For KPBS, I'm Claire Tregeser.
And I'm Megan Burks.
And that story was part of our California Counts election coverage in collaboration with KPCC, KQED, and Capital Public Radio. And you can find more election coverage at kpbs.org/CA-Counts. Hundreds of San Diego military and civilian officials are teaming up this week for security exercises at Naval Air Station North Island. Today's drill, a scenario of an active shooter on a pier. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy tells us the training comes 2 weeks after a shooting scare at the Naval Medical Center in Balboa Park.
A disgruntled military member guns his way through a security gate at the Coronado Navy base, taking down everyone in his path. His target, the docked USS Rushmore and the 360 sailors on board. A gun battle erupts as military members chase the shooter down the pier. The drill seems to come from an all-too-real playbook.
In the past couple of years, there's certainly been an uptick in active shooting cases and scenarios. This is something that we want to be able to be ready for as any training evolution.
Commanding officer of the USS Rushmore, Tom Stevens, tells his crew vigilance and communication are key.
If you're going to see something that doesn't seem right, you want to sound that alarm and you want to get that full team support.
On this day, the mock shooter is killed before he has a chance to board the ship. Still, a dozen are dead or injured, and there could be other attackers or planted bombs. Civilian emergency responders are called to help, including Coronado police, paramedics, and Homeland Security.
If we have a problem here on the base, it's going to take more than just the local military to handle that situation. So it's a great opportunity to bring folks in to show them how we do things.
Captain Stephen Barnett is commanding officer of Naval Base Coronado. He says the coordinated training is an opportunity to practice for a very real threat.
In the military, we train like we fight. And it's a great opportunity for the new sailors, for the new folks that work with our partners to see how we train in the military.
Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
The vote was unanimous among the San Diego Unified School District Board of Education to appoint a replacement for Marnie Foster. The board is now accepting applications for the seat, which was left vacant by Foster's resignation after pleading guilty to a misdemeanor. The board is to select 3 finalists February 17th to be interviewed, with a final vote coming on February 23rd. They plan to have the new member sworn in at the meeting on March 1st. The appointed applicant will also be allowed to run for a full term in the June primary election. Now, for some students, the first challenge is getting accepted to the state's top universities. The second, and sometimes even more daunting challenge, is dealing with the costs. KPBS education reporter Matt Bowler says a program called Achieve UC aims to show low-income students that college is, in fact, within their reach.
It felt like a pep rally. Even the cheerleaders and school band came to the Achieve UC event at San Diego High. Organizers told the audience of more than 600 students how to get into a UC college and how to pay for it. Tuition is close to $15,000 a year at University of California schools, but Achieve UC speakers say there is financial aid. UC San Diego Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs Juan Gonzalez says programs like the Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan pay the tuition of low-income students.
To help families and students that come from families earning less than $80,000, their tuition is covered. They will not have to arrive on our campus worried about tuition.
Gonzalez says the only thing students should focus on is doing well in class. Matt Bowler, KPBS News.
A new measure could restore funding to California's adult education programs. Lawmakers say funding for these programs was heavily slashed during the financial crisis in 2008. State school officials say some 65 adult schools were forced to close between 2008 and 2013. The measure would add $250 million for funding.
The number is $250 million added to the $5 million that they have already. So the total is going to be $750 million, and that should be every year in the budget.
The bill will need to pass votes on the Assembly and Senate floors before it hits the governor's desk for approval. The Department of Veterans Affairs is going to have to review the effectiveness of its mental health and suicide prevention programs for female veterans. A House bill that was passed on Tuesday in response to the high number of female veterans who commit suicide. A study released says that rate is almost 6 times higher than the civilian population. Representative Julia Brownlee sponsored the measure that would also require the VA to collect data on how trauma affects female service members. And flu activity is increasing in San Diego. The County Health and Human Services Department says more people were sick last week than any other week during the flu season. But despite more number of people that are infected, fatalities are significantly down from last year. 5 San Diegans have died from flu-related causes this year, compared to 57 from this time last year. San Diego will mark Love Your Heart Day tomorrow by offering free blood pressure screenings at dozens of spots throughout the county. From our North County Bureau, KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says the effort is designed to reduce San Diegans' risk of heart attack and stroke.
The free blood pressure checks will be available at supermarkets, drugstores, and YMCAs countywide. The goal is to screen 25,000 people. The San Diego County Medical Society Foundation is one of the event's sponsors. Executive Director Barbara Mandel says most people don't get an annual physical exam.
And so for all of them who only go to the doctor when they're ill or in pain, this is a fast way for them to check on their heart health.
Health officials say nearly 1 in 3 American adults has high blood pressure. It's called a silent killer because it doesn't have any symptoms, but left untreated, it can cause heart disease and kidney failure. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
A new bill that was introduced today would impose a 15% tax on medical marijuana retail sales. Senator Mike McGuire proposed the bill. He says the tax would bring the state of California over $100 million per year. Under the bill, 20% of the money would be used to maintain state parks, 10% to substance abuse programs. The bill requires a 2/3 vote to pass. California lawmakers continue debating state regulations for medical marijuana. The State Board of Equalization held the second in a series of meetings intended to develop medical marijuana policies in the state. Legislators agree tracking where the cannabis is grown and where it ends up can help ensure the safety of the medicine. The tax board also says a better tracking system is crucial to make sure dispensaries are paying taxes.
Well, right now we don't have any system except medicinal dispensaries are supposed to pay sales tax on any products that they sell. That's the only real tax laws that are out there.
And the medical marijuana regulation law Governor Brown signed last year gives state agencies until 2018 to develop regulations on the cultivation, distribution, sale, and taxation of medical marijuana. California housing costs are among the highest in the nation. Now, a new study says privately built market rate housing would do more to address that problem than government subsidized affordable housing. The report comes from the Nonpartisan Legislative Analyst's Office. It says affordable housing could not be provided on a large enough scale to lower the cost of living. Instead, the LAO urges state and local policymakers to find new ways to encourage market rate housing. The study says that might not reduce costs directly, but could indirectly help by creating more supply. Solar energy may be a bright spot in San Diego's economy. The solar job census reports the county was home to more than 8,300 jobs in the solar industry last year. San Diego ranked second behind Los Angeles. California tallied over 75,000 jobs statewide. That is 38% more than 2014. A new study reveals California's drought is hiking up electricity costs and greenhouse gas emissions. The Pacific Institute report says the drought has decreased the use of hydropower. That means the state uses more costly fossil fuel sources for electricity. Officials say those sources led to a 10% increase in the release of greenhouse gas emissions from power plants in the last 4 years, and it cost ratepayers an estimated $2 billion more over the same period. And it looks like Mother Nature is skipping spring in San Diego. Molly Cochran shows us the areas that may see temperatures near 90 degrees in tonight's KPBS weather report.
The dry pattern continues across California. Here's a look at our satellite and radar. Really tells the tale of what's happening across California and much of the Southwest. So we still have that ridge building, and that's just sending any of the clouds and showers farther off to our north and east. Now, Seattle has caught a very nice break in the action, but unsettled weather headed their way, and you can tell that by these clouds that are offshore, and we'll see some showers pick up across the Pac Northwest as we head into Thursday. But across LA, San Diego, much of the viewing area just under dry conditions, and I can tell you that's sticking around for the weekend and into next week. Now, it is February. We usually see some moisture getting in during this month, so we are caught in a very dry slot as we head into the early half of next week. I think we will be watching, though, the potential for a storm system to set in for the middle to later half of next week. But as I mentioned yesterday, some of those forecasting models, it's still very far out. So we're going to have to fine-tune that forecast as we head into next week. But right now, enjoy yourself. Just plenty of bright sunshine and also clear skies for the remainder of tonight. Really just smooth sailing. Won't have to worry about any weather-related travel delays. Temperature-wise for tonight, many of us going to be sitting where we should be for this time of year, but things are really going to be warming up as we head into the afternoon hours. So 54 for a low tonight in San Diego with clear skies, 34 in Mount Laguna. Here's a look at the Southwest. Big area of high pressure keeping us dry and sunny, and temperatures are approaching records from LA into San Diego. Looks like we're going to be coming shy of those records for the upcoming weekend, but by Monday, definitely going to be cutting it pretty close. Temperatures expected to get into the 80s. If you have a getaway forecast to Salt Lake City, one thing to note, some morning freezing fog could cause for a few slick spots, but as I mentioned, really not much to worry about across our area. Here's a look at our 5-day extended forecast across the immediate coastline. Plenty of bright sunshine, partly sunny skies into Saturday and also into Sunday. Daytime highs getting back into the 80s, so it's only getting warmer from here as we head into next week. Farther inland, pretty similar setup. We'll have lots of sunshine, temperatures in the mid-70s for Saturday, 80 by Monday, and we're expecting bright sunny skies to continue. And here's a look across the mountainous regions. Temperatures during the afternoon in the mid to upper 60s. Overnight lows in the 30s, though, so still going to need those heavy coats if you do have any trips planned across the interior section. For the desertous regions, we're in the mid to upper 80s by Saturday and expecting partly to mostly sunny skies. Molly Cochran, KPBS News.
Remember that skinny sea lion pup that was found in a booth at the Marine Room restaurant in La Jolla last week? Well, SeaWorld staff have been working to get her back in shape to return to the ocean. She's being treated for dehydration, malnutrition, and an eye injury as well. Doctors say she's gained 4 pounds already and are hoping she will start showing more of an interest in eating fish.
And once we find that they are excited and competitive within the other sea lions we have with regards to eating those fish, then we know that she's going to be strong enough to compete out in the ocean.
So far this year, SeaWorld has rescued 60 marine mammals, including 53 sea lions. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, a hairstyle that set off a firestorm at a high school basketball game. The clash between fashion and tradition. And on Midday Edition, going beyond the candlelight dinner, the flavors of love to tempt your Valentine. We're taking your questions about romantic meal questions. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. From all of us here at KPBS, thanks for watching and have a great evening. Good night.